This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children. Wait a minute, I don't say that. I'm behind the pen.
I say that.
Sean Anderson says that.
Hey.
He joins me today on Behind the Pen. And welcome in, my friends, to another episode of my favorite show on the Most Valuable Podcast Network. Not knocking your primetime podcast.
You're the worst. I know you're just doing it to mess with me, too.
The Fast Break, Sean Anderson hosts, and honestly, I love giving him crap because back in the day, if you're OGs of Most Valuable Podcast, I always get it wrong whenever I have Sean on the show. I always introduce him as the primetime podcast host, but he's on the Fast Break.
That's Ricky.
With Ricky and Dave, and hopefully you can listen to this entire length, which you can find it on blogtalkradio.com/Most Valuable Podcast. It is strictly baseball conversation today because the winter meetings have concluded. And so much have gone down, especially here in Chicago with your favorite team.
I love it. The White Sox. I mean, the one thing that just does kind of put a damper, because I was on such a high after we traded Chris Sale, and then the Eaton deal comes in, and I'm freaking out. But then I realized our field's still called Guarantee Rate Field. I still have to deal with that.
Fly the arrow. Fly the downward arrow.
I don't want to do that. Shout out
White Sox blog on Twitter, which you can follow us, by the way. We are on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Most Valuable Podcast. Give us a like, comment below. Let us know what you think about us saying things and stuff. So let's get right into this conversation we are going to have. It's going to be a full-length podcast. We have so many topics on hand. White Sox, Red Sox, Nationals, winners and losers of the winter meetings, as well as major signings and trades throughout this offseason. To this point, it is December 8th. Sean, let's start with the White Sox. Your Chicago White Sox.
Yes.
Chris Sale. Chris Sale is on the move, and we kind of expected this, right, going into the offseason. I mean, the White Sox had to commit to either a full rebuild or they're going to go half in and half out. And we know that it didn't work. So right now, Rick Hahn's like, screw it. We're just gonna build it from the ground up. We're gonna tear it down. What we have now, Chris Sale has such a valuable commodity placed upon his head that you get guys like the number one prospect in baseball from the Boston Red Sox, Yoan Moncada, Michael Kopech, who is one of the top prospects in baseball, pitching prospects, power arm, projected to be a starter.
He could be the next Thor, pretty much. I mean, he looks like Syndergaard.
Easy comparison there with long, luscious locks, blonde locks. Luis Alexander, Basabe, center fielder, lots of potential there in center. And then he's just... God, it's so exciting. He's such a healthy balance of power, speed, and contact. And then you have Victor Diaz, another young right-handed reliever who's 22 years old, and that was just for Chris Sale. So you just totally revitalized your farm system to an extent after one move. Then you move on the next day. This is within like 30 hours. They trade Adam Eaton to the Nationals for the third overall prospect, according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, Lucas Giolito. And then you also acquire Reynaldo Lopez and Dane Dunning, two other pitching prospects who have tons of potential attached to them. Sean, how are you feeling about this right now?
I am ecstatic. I mean, Brandon Swanson and I, in the group chat we have with all the guys from MVP, we were like, all right, let's look into season tickets.
For real.
Because, I mean, now I'm excited about this team. I don't care if the team's going to win, 62 games or if that's the ceiling next year. It's because we finally have a farm system. And I remember back in 2010 or whatever it was when Keith Law came out with his top prospects list, and he was like, the White Sox are 30 and it's not close to being 29. And now after this trade, I think it was Nightingale on Twitter who said the White Sox have picked up 7 prospects in less than 30 hours, 5 pitchers included, and then their system jumped 15 clubs in prospect status. I mean, it's crazy to say that we actually have a farm system, and then I'm excited for multiple prospects instead of one, because usually it's just like one guy that comes up in the ranks. Usually it's like a Chris Sale or a Quintana or a Tim Anderson. It's never a lot of guys, or a Gordon Beckham too, if we want to talk flops. But it's usually one guy that's coming up for the Sox, and now we have multiple guys that have.
Well, it's because what the White Sox wanted to do in the past was trade these commodities, right? This value young prospects, and turn it into immediate results on the field, and it worked in 2005. Right, they put it together in 2005, won a World Series, but then after that, they kind of went through that mold, and we saw signings like Adam Dunn. I mean, they would sign guys late in the season like Kevin Youkilis. It was just like kind of boggle the mind a little bit, and it goes back to even last offseason when they traded that package for Frazier. They lost Trace Thompson, and honestly, if we look back at all of the moves the White Sox did to acquire, Major League ready talent or proven guys, they really didn't lose much because they're, like you said, that farm system was not strong whatsoever. It wasn't really like they lost a game-changing prospect. I mean, right now, Trace Thompson may look like the biggest loss of the White Sox.
But even then, I mean, there's still talks that where he's a part of trades for the Dodgers.
Right. So it's
coming back. So we might even be able to get
It's not that exaggerated. It's just the White Sox have been sort of mediocre for a long time now. And right now, the direction that they're going is sustained success, similar to what the Cubs did.
Yeah, and one thing that I when you bring that up, too, is like we haven't lost much because when we make these trades, I think like the only times where we've ever been bitten by a trade is I think it was like the best prospect we've given up was Gio Gonzalez one year. And I think that
twice.
I think that was the biggest trade that our biggest player that we've given up. We haven't given up a lot and really, been like look back and like, oh, we shouldn't have given this guy up. We haven't been bitten by trades too many times.
Right. It was just the incompetency of the front office not putting together a solid product in the field. But right now, all of a sudden, you're going to go through this trepid, season, maybe 2 for the White Sox, may lose 100 games in 2017. But that's the price you pay to look at what you have on the field in terms of young players and young talent. Something to be excited about as a White Sox fan. They now have 6 of the top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball.
And before this week, we had 2 of them. And it was 2 guys that we drafted recently. We had Collins and we had Fulmer. And that was it. And then now we bring in, 6 other guys.
Moncada, Giolito, Kopech, and Reynaldo Lopez. Lopez 38, Kopech 30, Giolito 3, Moncada 1. You have the number 1 and number 3 prospects in baseball out of 2 moves.
It's a good feeling.
It's a fantastic feeling. Top 4 of the White Sox 10 best prospects were acquired in 2 moves. This is unbelievable. And then another thing to note is that 7 of their top 10 prospects are pitchers. You can never not have enough pitchers.
And one thing, too, the Sox do so well with is developing pitchers. Chris Sale, Mark Burley, Quintana. I mean, we have a ton of guys that come up through our system. Rodon. We have so many guys that come up through our system and develop with Don Cooper, and they become great pitchers within the White Sox organization. We don't see a lot of times where we go out and get a already made pitcher outside of 2005. So really, we usually develop in-house pitching talent, and it's worked out for us so far. So getting so many guys that Don Cooper can work with, it's something that's really exciting as a fan. And really, the one thing that is kind of worrying is we don't have a lot of bats, but still we have a lot of players that we can move for bats. So right now, I'm on cloud 9.
Let's move on to that conversation now because the White Sox aren't necessarily done making moves.
I hope not.
Because you look at the roster right now, and it's just like, keep this going, guys. You have Quintana, possibly expendable. Todd Frazier, Abreu, Melky. All of these players are sort of on the radars of teams.
The whole bullpen.
David Robertson, Nate Jones even. There are conversations going on as we speak. Apparently the Nationals aren't done working with the White Sox. And Rick Hahn's like, hey, Rizzo, he's like, let me manipulate your system a little more.
And the one thing, too, that Hahn even said was we would be thrilled if we did 4 more press conferences before we leave here. So he wants to make trades. And another thing, too, is, they even told the Nationals, like the Nationals really wanted the Sox to throw in Robertson in the Eaton deal, and possibly more would go to the White Sox there, but they want to get the most out of their players. They want to get the most value. It's not like, hey, buy one Adam Eaton, you can get Dave Robertson for 25% off. You can get the most out of your players, and I think it's the smartest move that Rick Hahn is making, and this is something that I've been telling you off of recording and in other places, that we just need to go out. We need to go out and sell. And this is one thing that the Sox need to do is we can't be the Chicago Bulls. We can't always be trying to compete or bring in old veterans. We need to build up from the ground up because the Sox haven't done that. The Sox have been to the playoffs, I think, 3 times in the past 20 years. I mean, it's something ridiculously pathetic what the Sox have done playoff-wise. We need to build up from the ground up.
And it's a changing league, right? And we see that kind of philosophy across the board. We saw a transformation of a Houston Astros franchise. We see the transformation of the Chicago Cubs franchise. We're seeing it with Philadelphia. We're seeing it with Atlanta.
Yankees, too, are doing it.
And the Yankees, well, they did it in a year.
Yeah.
Almost. And they're still going to be relevant next season, but I'm not going to take them seriously. That'll be for another podcast when I talk about other things and stuff. Yeah. But I'm looking at the White Sox, and this is, and the direction of the Major League Baseball, this is the way to do it. You talk about the impact of young players emerging in Major League Baseball today, and the Sox have the number 1 and number 3 prospects in baseball, so that's what you want to do. Lucas Giolito is coming off Tommy John surgery. I just wanted to throw that in there.
He's had it twice in his career, too, when he came into the league.
It's unbelievable, the epidemic of Tommy John surgeries. So, I mean, I guess, in a way, he got it out of the way. You know what I mean? But I'm also worried about Michael Kopech because that guy hit 105. And he sits 95, 97. But it's like...
One thing with Kopech, too, he's also got a little bit of anger issues because he missed the last half of the season after punching a teammate. And he was injured after punching the teammate.
He's kind of a head case. And that's something that was mentioned, too, upon acquiring the player is that, he's a little outspoken. No question about it. I don't know if you saw this on social media, but he and his girlfriend, I guess, posted a bunch of pictures of them. They were on some sort of vacation, and they were just like flaunting. Oh, they're beautiful people. We can't, obviously, but it's just like,
That was one thing in the group chat, too, where it was like, oh, did you see Kopech's girlfriend? And I'm like, this is what we're worried about? Did you see his fastball?
I mean, we talk about Ben Zobrist.
That's what I'm more excited about. I don't give a shit about his girlfriend.
Well, sure. Ben Zobrist's wife, she sings for Ben Zobrist, and
God, Juliana Zobrist is a nutcase.
I know. I remember when David DeJesus was in Chicago.
Oh my God, I forgot about him.
His wife's
nuts too.
Beautiful. Anyway, we digress here. No, but that's one of the things. We look at Michael Kopech, and it's like, okay, we got to keep an eye on that. And then I don't know, like you have Brett Laurie on the roster still. He's sort of a mental case, and that's been obvious. But I don't know how long he's going to stay with the Chicago White Sox. They decided to actually re-sign him,
which I don't think was a bad move. Because he was good last year.
They got to fill the roster some way.
Someone has to play.
Because right now, I'm looking at the White Sox depth chart, and you have Charlie Tilson and Avi Garcia in center and right field. Avi's going to be your everyday right fielder, unless somebody like Jason Coates comes up. And that's like, okay, well.
Or if you sign someone.
Well, right now, it's like, you expect 2017 to be this year of, okay, let's see what we have in our young players. Let's give them time. That may mean Matt Davidson will get some playing time at the major league level, which so far it looks like he's been a major bust. And then you look at guys like Jacob May. I'm really excited about Jacob May, a prospect in the Chicago White Sox system. He's got speed. He's such a high grade defensively. Scouts have been giving him in center field. That's somebody to keep an eye on. Charlie Tilson was acquired last season from the Cardinals. Unfortunately, got hurt in his debut with the White Sox, which is like a trend that new players have. I don't understand it.
I don't understand either. And one thing, too, I mean, there's a lot of guys, Courtney Hawkins, too, who we drafted a while ago. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of progression from him yet, but I mean, he was a top 10 pick, I believe, or he was at least a first rounder. I remember that.
You're going to see Carson Fulmer, Zach Collins, Zach Birdie. All of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've drafted a lot of guys, and it's more seeing the progression, too. And I mean, looking at the prospect list, I mean, if you look at the top 5, there's one guy that was actually drafted by the Sox, and that's Fulmer. And we saw a little bit of Fulmer last year.
They rushed him.
Yeah, he wasn't fantastic, but I mean, he's still young. And with that is, I mean, you just got to give him time. And you're going to have Giolito down. He's going to start probably in AAA. You're going to have Kopech obviously down because he's really young. Lopez is going to be a fringe guy. He's most likely, he should start in AAA, but he would probably appear in the MLB a little bit.
You're going to see a lot of these guys in 2017.
Yeah.
Especially Moncada. Like that guy, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say right now that this guy is legit. Switch hitter, health. I talked about a healthy balance of power within the 20-year-old center fielder that they acquired, Luis Alexander Basabe. Well, you look at Yohan Moncada, this guy has superstar potential.
And he's a 5-tool player.
He's second baseman. Solid defensively.
Most likely to play third, though, for the Sox.
No, they want to develop him at second, and that's his position. You put him at second, you leave him there.
He played third with the Red Sox.
He could play third, he could play second, but I think the White Sox, Rick Hahn said they're going to commit to him at second base. This is super exciting. You have a middle infield of Tim Anderson and Moncada. That's fantastic. He's got power. He's got speed. He can hit for average. He can hit. He can throw. You know what I mean?
I mean, he can get you 30 homers too and steal 50 bags. I mean, the kid's ridiculous. I mean, he could fly out there.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I'm not even. I love watching this transition. I mean, it was so fun going through. And now the difference between the Cubs and Sox as we end this White Sox conversation is the Cubs had to lose consecutive seasons worth of 90 games plus to get to the point where they are today.
They drafted what they had.
Of course. Yeah, you got Schwarber and Bryant and Baez they drafted. Took them a while to develop Baez, all these other players too. And
then drafted Vogelbach and traded him for
Montgomery, a guy who got the last out in the World Series. You look at also Addison Russell, the way they acquired him, and then there's a little bit of a luck there too because Joe Mad.
And Rizzo too. I mean, Rizzo wasn't a finished product.
But he was drafted by their GM, Jed Hoyer, and then eventually made his way to Chicago.
Padres, Red Sox.
So they can technically say he was developed by the men running the ship for Chicago. But it's a different conversation. With the White Sox, all of a sudden, because of their value and I guess their half-in, half-out philosophy, they were able to have guys like Chris Sale, who they drafted and developed, and it's unfortunate as a fan to see a franchise once-in-a-lifetime pitcher go. But on the other hand,
see with that though, with Sale, I mean, it's like when AJ left, there was some bitterness because it's like, oh, it sucks. But we never had to see Frank Thomas go. I mean, Frank Thomas just kind of fell apart, and then we just let him go.
Right.
We never had to see Paulie go. I mean, it's with Sale, it's more of a guy that couldn't win with you, and it's bittersweet. It's kind of like Magdaleno Ordonez. Because Mags was a great player, but Mags wasn't going to help this team do anything, specifically win-wise.
Well, I disagree. I thought with the White Sox, I was pissed when they got rid of him because Mags was one of their best hitters at the time.
He was, but it was more of
the state of the White Sox.
Yeah, and what happened too after we traded Mags? We won.
Well, I'm just saying, different situations in different parts of their franchise history. Like right now with Chris Sale. Are you going to win in 3 or 4 years? Maybe. I think the White Sox are going to be good in 2 to 3. I think this could turn really good in 3.
Yeah. I think in 2 to 3 years will kind of be where the Cubs were in 2014, 2015 when you surprisingly
won. 2015 they just come out of nowhere and win 90 games.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to win 90 games, but I think we'll have that same expectations that the Cubs did because Cubs were expected to at least compete for the wild card if they hit all their expectations, and obviously they hit more than that with Joe Maddon.
So to end this White Sox conversation, going back to my point, they have the value to revitalize their system in a short period of time. It's going to take time for them to develop these players, but at the same time, because of the Sales, the Fraziers, the Lorys, the Abreu's, and I feel like Abreu and Frazier are going to be gone as well as Robertson.
Really, with the must-goes, it should be Frazier, Robertson. I wrote this down. Frazier, Dodgers have been talking about him. I think that's an obvious move.
Depends on Justin Turner.
Yeah, Robertson, too. Rangers need bullpen help. Also, the loser of Chapman and Kenley, which most likely will be the Nationals or the Dodgers. Abreu to the Mariners or Rockies, they need first baseman help. The Mariners do. And Quintana, too. I mean, Mariners don't have that deep of a rotation outside of Felix, and Felix hasn't been that great. You have Iwakuma as well.
They just traded Taijuan Walker.
You just traded Taijuan Walker. Astros have been linked, but also I think you trade a guy like Quintana to the NL, so maybe the Cubs get him back in. The Rockies need some help. The Dodgers obviously are always looking for pitchers' help, so I think those are guys that need to go.
Plenty
Melky too
of possibilities for this White Sox and Rick Hahn to do more and increase the progression of the farm system. So on December 8th, after 2 days of the winter meetings, the White Sox totally revamped their farm system, have 6 top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball, and 4 of the White Sox 10 best prospects were acquired in 2 moves. So bravo, Chicago White Sox and Rick Hahn.